Well, we're going to talk to Flo a little bit earlier than usual on the programme to find out what the newspapers are saying about this. Of course, it's all about the man of the hour, Sepp Blatter. He's been at the helm for 17 years, calling it quits, Flo.
That's right. Such a surprising move, especially because he was just re-elected president on Friday. Let's start with, first of all, an article in the New York Times. It talks about from defiant to defeated in 4 fateful days. Something happened between Friday and Tuesday, something terrible enough and worrisome enough to send Sepp Blatter running to the hills. What exactly created such a sea change between Friday and Tuesday? Well, conveniently, you can look at another article in the New York Times. This is the article that's really getting picked up a lot about with all these facts that so many other papers are talking about. You can see it here. Essentially, what's changed is that the FBI's investigation into FIFA corruption has been extended to Blatter personally, according to sources quoted in the New York Times. Essentially, what U.S. officials are trying to do is they're hoping to win the cooperation of some of these other FIFA bigwigs that were indicted last week and use their cooperation to work their way up the organization and essentially to its head, Sepp Blatter.
It is a huge story across the world, isn't it? Really grabbing headlines in all the major papers.
That's right. That's what I found so fascinating over the last week is just what a global story this is. Just to give you an idea, I pulled out a couple of front pages. First of all, The Independent, the British paper, also talking about this FBI investigation into Blatter as he quits as FIFA chief. Le Soir, the Belgian paper, says that Blatter is caving into this face of mounting pressure. And in its editorial, it has pretty harsh words for the FIFA, going out president, I guess you could say. It says that he's falling without honor and bringing down the world of football along with him. So pretty harsh words there in Le Soir.
And you found rather a feeling of relief in a lot of the papers as well, haven't you? Particularly in the British press.
That's right.
Not surprisingly.
British tabloids, it must be said, have been giving Blatter a roasting for the last week, and it's a gift that keeps on giving today. I put out just a couple examples. Let's start with the Sun Sports front page. They talk about how we got him. The fat cat of FIFA quits. Moving on to Daily Telegraph. In their sports section, they talk about good riddance, and you can see an empty chair there. They say that Blatter's demise is the most beautiful sight in football, and the Daily Mirror agrees today. They say that it's a great day for football. If we look at the front page of their sports section, the Daily Mirror says it's a great day. And let's just end with the Daily Express. That's must say, a right-wing tabloid I rarely use as a reference, but they've got a really good headline today. They talk about Blatt's all, folks. I think that one wins the prize for the best headline.
I like that. Very, very nice. Well, Sepp Blatter, of course, had vowed to carry out deep reforms before an extraordinary summit is held in 6 to 9 months to choose his successor. One of the big questions, though, who on earth is going to replace him?
That's right. Who will succeed Sepp Blatter? Once again, the New York Times has a really good article about this. It's funny because it kind of describes it like a video game. This is, after all, one of the most important jobs in the sector. Who are the front runners? Well, just to name 2 of them, there's Prince Ali bin Al Hussein, the Jordan prince, the challenger, as the New York Times calls him. So he ran a surprisingly strong campaign against Blatter on Friday and is bound to run again. Then you have the insider. That's Michel Platini, former French football star, currently the president of the Union of European Football Associations. He really led the revolt against Blatter. He has a good chance of being elected. This article points out, though, that what FIFA really needs is a complete house cleaning and restructuring, and it might take a complete outsider to do that. Someone who hasn't involved in the game, certainly someone who doesn't have any backs to scratch, or perhaps a superhero. And according to the New York Times, it might be easier to find a superhero than anybody else.
Somebody in red underpants that they wear on the outside. Now, Sepp Blatter's resignation, of course, very symbolic. Many papers, though, saying it's also just the first step.
That's right. If we take a look at an article in the Washington Post, they say that. They say Sepp Blatter resigns, but the work is just beginning for FIFA. Now, some papers have been expressing hope. This could be the new dawning of a new era in football, but a lot of others are a lot more skeptical. If we take a look at The Independent today, they ask this question: does this mean that FIFA will automatically clean up its act? Well, don't bet on it. You can see it there. It says that don't forget that 133 footballing nations voted for Blatter last week, so his ethics will be difficult to expunge. And if we take a look at the editorial in The Independent, they also say don't get carried away with the resignation of Sepp Blatter. What happens next is what really counts. We should remain deeply suspicious of FIFA and all it's doing. You can see it says FIFA needs to go to rehab here. FIFA must travel the painful road to reform and learn the meaning of good governance, because right now the situation is pretty bleak for football in general. And I pulled out one last cartoon. This is from China Daily that I think sums up the situation quite well. What you can see is the World Cup with little worms coming out of it, flies flying all around it. It's a pretty smelly situation for world football. So reform is necessary. It's going to be tough, probably chaotic, but it's really necessary to save the reputation of world football.
A very stinky World Cup finishing Flo's press review. Flo, thank you very much. Just to round all that off, just one piece of news coming into us. This is from the head of Australian football, saying the 2022 World Cup race, this of course the one that Qatar won, was not clean. That from Australia's football chief.